Hello and welcome everyone back to Ruslan Bortnik YouTube channel in English, where we discuss the latest updates about Ukraine and around Ukraine. Ruslan, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure always to have a conversation and discuss the latest analysis about Ukraine.
Me too. Hello, James.
I want to start with, it's no longer breaking news, it happened a few days ago, but with the situation around the two Chinese soldiers that were captured fighting in Ukraine, what do we know so far about that?
It's everybody knows this secret before, because we have a lot of volunteers in Ukrainian army, and Russia also is gathering a lot of different volunteers for money, of course, around the world. And there are a lot of foreigners in Russian armies, starting from China and India, Nepal, for example. And in the Latin America, especially Cuba, Venezuela, Syrian people, a lot of people abroad, a lot of people. I think thousands of foreign volunteers, foreign soldiers are fighting against Ukraine in Russian army now. Otherwise, from Ukrainian side, the same situation. We have a lot of people from Colombia, the first place. We have few, maybe even thousands soldiers from Colombia. A lot of soldiers from Georgia, from Belarus, from many Chechen soldiers from many countries. I met estimation that in the beginning of the war, Ukraine had at least 20,000 soldiers, foreign soldiers in our side. Now we have less, but we have special international legion, we have special units in different Ukrainian brigades, which are made only from international soldiers. And we are saying about the field brigades. But moreover, we have international advisors. If we are talking about high-level weapon, anti-aircraft weapon, or rocket systems, or we are talking about intelligence, and so on. So this war is very internationalized war because of participation of many soldiers around the war. And these two Chinese soldiers, it was also a very known secret, because Russian mass media made a few films, movies 1 year or even before about these soldiers, about the volunteers from China, and so on and so on. It doesn't mean that China is sending their troops to Ukraine, to Russia, like North Korea made it before. It means that only Russia is trying to collect the soldiers around the world because of absence its own soldiers. Now Russia is paying them very good money for these soldiers. They have entrance payment from 20 till 40,000 United States dollars. Very good money.
Right away, just as a first paycheck, just because you join.
Yeah, because of you join. And they have salary near 2,000-3,000 per month every month. From Ukrainian side, we have the same. We have smaller entrance payment, and we have a salary between 2 and 2,500 United dollars per month. It's a good money for many soldiers and officers around the world, especially when we are talking about the Asian or Latin American countries. It's a good
money for them.
So people are coming, but it's there is no any significant mark that China is officially taking part in this war. Moreover, China is a main trade partner for Ukraine now, and China is supplying a lot of parts for Ukrainian drones and Ukrainian military systems still. China is trying to balance it, trying to keep the trade from all the sides. Of course, the trade with Russia is much higher, near 280 billion United States dollars per year, and comparing the 10-12 billion trade with Ukraine, between China and Ukraine. But China is trying to balance all the time. I can't exclude that that somewhere maybe some Chinese advisors in Russian headquarters, which are learning the lessons of this war, which are learning the technologies of this war, but they will not be sent to the front.
It's not going to be official.
Yeah, and they will not be sent to the directly to the front, to the storm, to the offensive operation on Ukrainian trenches. They are very high level militaries, which will not see them in the trenches. So I think it's a volunteering topic, but of course Ukraine is trying to use this situation, like with North Korean soldiers before, to use the situation to show the West that Ukraine is defending the West against these Eastern enemies, Eastern countries. In the time of the worsening relations between the United States and China, this topic of two captured Chinese soldiers also became a part of these information campaigns in the world.
So it looks to me that that's more of a media campaign on the Ukrainian side, just like you've mentioned, to show the Western allies, like, hey, we're like the frontier, we're defending you. Do you think that media campaign worked out well? Because honestly, after the breaking news, seeing one or two main media channels talking about that situation with the Chinese soldiers, I haven't heard anything since for the past 2 days. Like, it didn't really cause a big informational wave like it happened with the North Korean soldiers or other informational campaigns.
I don't know exactly, of course, but I saw an official statement of the press secretary of White House and other American United States officials, which said that it's very dangerous and which some kind supported Ukrainian informational topic. It looks like it's very useful topic. It's not very important. It's not very heavy, but in any case, it's very useful informational topic in this fight, trade, economical fight between United States and China now.
I also want to talk to you about the situation around the spring-summer offensive of Russia against Ukraine. There's a lot of conversation in the Ukrainian media platform right now that Russia is potentially prepping for the spring-summer offensive. What are the grounds behind that offensive? What Russia is potentially going to try achieve if they will start the spring-summer offensive? And how it will all be combined with the fact that they're trying to talk about the peace negotiations right now. I mean, Marco Rubio came out in one of the press conferences and said, well, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see if Russia wants peace or not. And if at the same time Russia is prepping for a spring-summer offensive, wouldn't that be a clear sign that Russia is not looking for peace?
For me, it looks like the nowadays United States administration is also divided in two parts. The one part is most classical Republicans, which are against Russia, which are more supportive toward Ukraine. The Rubio, Kit Kellogg belong to this part. Maybe it's only my division. And they are more pro-Ukrainian and less pro-Russian, or more pro-anti-Russian at the same time. And the other part, it's like Witkoff, it's maybe Walz, it's Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, a lot of people around Trump, which are strictly against Zelensky, against Ukrainian power nowadays, and which are willing to achieve some kind of balance with Russia, which are not so anti-Russian like the first part of this team. And so we are in this situation. We see a lot of different kind of statements. Some of them are very anti-Ukrainian, anti-governmental, anti-Zelensky. Some of them are very anti-Russian. One part of this team are promising new sanctions against Russia. Another two part of this team are claiming Ukraine in all the problems. And Trump is balancing between these two parts. And of course, everything is depending on the negotiation between Ukraine and the United States, on the mineral deal, of course, and of course on the peaceful resolution in this conflict. It looks like this one part of this Trump's team is trying to push Russia. They are trying to estimate the possible concessions from the Russian side in this peaceful negotiation, because all this real peaceful negotiation are frozen. To be honest, they are frozen because this negotiation between Russia and the United States stacked after the Russian ultimatums toward the Black Sea trade deal. I want to remind our viewers that Russia said that we are ready to accept the ceasefire on the Black Sea, but you need to lift the sanctions. The United States needs to lift the sanctions from the Russian agricultural sector, some Russian banks, Russian insurance companies, Russian fleet, and so on and so on. And after this changing of position, nothing changed. After this, it looks like we have a frozen negotiation. And of course, the level of the claims, the level of statements between sides is going up because everyone is trying to convince each other to make some concessions in this negotiation. I don't think that Russian-United States relations are worsening in this moment. The sides are preparing for the next stage, and they are keeping that very frequent technical contacts. I'm talking about the visit of the Kirill Dmitriev to Washington, and I'm talking about the meeting between the Russian delegation and the United States delegation in Istanbul these days, technical meeting about the future of diplomatic relations between these countries. And I don't think that the relation between the United States and Ukrainian is worsening also. We are now in the preparation stage to the next round of negotiation. Talking about the Russian possible advantage, it looks for me that this negotiation, even unsuccessful negotiation without any official deal between the sides, made a huge influence on the battlefield. Because in any case, Russia and Ukraine are not making very heavy, very systematic strikes of energy infrastructure on the seaports and so on. At the same time, there is no a significant big advantage operation in the battlefield. No one, not Ukraine, nor even Russia, are making a big advantage operation now in the front. Of course, war is going on, but it's very tactical, very local fights now is going on without significant changes of the territories and without a big advantage operation. Russia is preparing for the spring round of this war because it will be very much easier to continue this war in the spring because the ability of controlling the territory using the drones will be less. Trees are growing up, grass is growing up. Will be much easier to hide in this small forest and lands from the controlling of the drones. But everything is dependent also from negotiation. If the negotiation will be broken, that I think Russia will try to make one or a few offensive operation in Ukrainian lands. Especially we are talking about the Sumy and Kharkivska Oblast and maybe Zaporozhska Oblast. And Russia, of course, is trying to take over all the territory of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast. But if the negotiation will go on, or if the United States and Russia will achieve some success in their bilateral track, for example, some sanctions will be lifted, I think the war may be slowly freezing due the Korean scenario when there is no any significant deal, any significant document, but the existence of the sides and losing the goals of that war, leading the sides to the ending that war de facto. Such scenario is also possible, but everything is depending now, depending on the negotiation between the Russia and United States.
So, Ruslan, if I understand you correctly, we have two options right now, and that's based on the fact that the negotiations are pretty frozen. I mean, we haven't seen any significant statements, or anybody came out to a press conference and said we have resolved this and this and this. This is any agreement. So that kind of makes sense. And the two scenarios that you're describing, based on the fact that the negotiations are frozen, is that one, if they will be kind of broken, then Russia will go ahead with a few offensive operations to achieve territorial gains, specifically in the region that they have claimed and added to the Russian state, to the Russian country. And if negotiations will be successful, then the war will just slow down because they will have other agreements that they will focus on, but it's not going to be resolved. It's just going to kind of like during the Donbass time between 2017 and
how to resolve this war in the situation when 5 Ukrainian regions are included in constitution of Ukraine and in constitution of Russia. The final resolution of this war could be only in geopolitical level, in the new
on the highest
Yalta,
level. Yeah.
In the new level, Yalta, in the new special agreement between the United States and Russia, in the Security Council of United Nations, something like this. Or it could be resolved after the collapse in one of the states.
Yeah, I was just about to say, but that's only possible. Like Yalta 2 only is going to be possible if one of the sides is going to dramatically lose. Like if one of the sides is going to collapse. Otherwise, nobody wants to take ultimatums.
Yes, it means that one side will disappear and no country, no problem. No other constitution. And it means that that defeated country will be rebuilt with a new constitution, with the new borders, and so on, and all the problems, all the losses, all the concessions will be done on the side of the defeated country, of course.
But I was describing the two scenarios that you've mentioned about potential offensive attacks if the negotiations are going to break or be broken, or a potential slow down on a front line because other tracks will be more productive. My question is, what do you think Trump administration is leaning more towards? Would they be more happy if the negotiations will be broken and they'll just, let Russia do offensive attacks and, claim whatever they want to claim and be like hands off? Or they're more interested in, let's get certain solution here and slowly diffuse the conflict and focus on more business side and financial side of the conflict, and how do we build up trust there and potential agreements and solutions?
I think the main goal of Trump's administration in this conflict just to freeze the conflict, just to slow down and freeze the conflict, because Trump believes that his word will be very influential in this situation, and no one will be able to restart this war till the end of the Trump term
presidency.
Trump presidency. Yeah, you are right. So he believes that he is able, only it's his own guarantees, his own words, his own influence to freeze this war, and to restart this war will be much harder than to continue or to begin even, because the consequences of restarting of the war will be lying down on the initiator of this restarting of this war. But this scenario are not suitable. This scenario is not suitable for both sides. For Ukraine, it means that Ukraine is losing 20% of our entire territory, 7 million of people in occupied lands and 10 million refugees abroad, at least. For Ukraine, it means that the very significant dangers of restoration of the war in the future, after the presidency of the Trump, for example. Russia is not also feeling good in this situation because it means that Russia is blocked on Ukrainian lands, and no one is going on to divide the world, the post-Soviet lands with Russia. No one is going on to recognize the Russians' zones of influences in post-Soviet lands. So it's also a defeat. It's not a it's victory only in very brutal level, in very common social level.
On a very small case.
Yeah, small case and for very average people, but for elites, it's not a victory, it's a defeat.
Because but it's a victory for Trump because he's going to say, hey, I solved it.
But what for Zelensky needs to make some present for Trump? He has another partners in Europe, Great Britain, France, and so on. He has partners in Democratic Party also. What for? What are the benefits for Zelensky and for Ukraine in this situation? For Russia and Putin the same. What for they need to make some concessions on the Trump's goals?
And, you know, that brings me to an understanding that neither Ukraine, neither Russia is interested in freezing the world without like a significant solution or a significant outcome for their side. And therefore, I'm curious what tools or advantage Trump has to push his agenda on Ukraine and Russia. Like, US Russian export import is very low. I think it's below $5 billion. Ukraine can continue fighting, or we will see how Ukraine will continue fighting without United States support, because Ukraine just mentioned, the Ukrainian official, I think Zelensky himself just said that we'll just pay for the package from the United States. We'll just pay for that military package. We can pay for our needs, and so on and so forth. And I think Europe will help them to fund those packages. So Ukrainians are willing and probably have the tools and will to continue this fight if it's not going to be closed on the terms that will satisfy them. So is Russians. So what does Trump and Trump's administration has to influence the Ukrainians and the Russians to pursue their goal, which is freezing the war at least until the end of Trump's presidency?
I think the less painful way in this process could be some concessions from United States side, not between Russia and Ukraine. It's very hard to do without losing the face for Zelensky and Putin at the same time. But for example, some money, security guarantees, something like this, personal support for Zelensky, for Ukraine, and some lifting sanctions, economical cooperation, and so on between the United States and Russia. It's not very painful for United States because public opinion and voters in the United States are not so injured of this situation, are not so interested in this situation. And it's quite possible. It's much harder to find some concessions from Ukrainian side or Russian side, because both our societies are very deep in this conflict. They are very drained by the propaganda, informational fight during these years.
Is there anything else, do you think, that is important for people that are listening to us to understand in regards to what is happening right now and what they should expect moving forward in the peaceful negotiations and the potential offensive attacks? And what else can Trump's administration come up with? Because they're coming up with new ideas almost every 24 hours in regards to the peaceful negotiations and the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
I think we need to understand that the time is not going on in well direction for Ukraine, because Ukraine has very limited resources, and we are talking not only about the Western support, we are talking also about the demographical resources and so on. So the question of the peace is a question of existence of Ukraine. If they, in the beginning of the war in 2022, the defense of the Ukraine was also the question of the existence of Ukraine.
It was existential.
After 2024, it's a question of a choose for Ukraine. We can choose to fight or not to fight, because if we will even achieve the peaceful solution, it doesn't mean the Ukraine will disappear in the future. But the continuation of the war, keeping the risk of disappearing of Ukraine, or defeating Ukraine in the future,
brings back on the table.
Yeah, keeping this risk very high, very bright in the future. So we need to find the solution, and we need to find the exit strategy of this war, because we are not able to continue this war forever, even for 3 or the next 3 or 5 years. Ukraine is not able to continue this war for such a long-term war. And I think there are a lot of people which are very disappointed because of Trump's behavior toward Ukraine, toward Europe. But I think in strategic term, Trump is a lucky chance for Ukraine. He is trying to lead Ukraine out, to take Ukraine out of this negative tendency, negative scenario, and to save Ukraine, to find some new balance and new compromises on Ukrainian issue also.
Ruslan, and it looks like he understands it, because basically he's saying it when he's talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict.
Yeah, but a lot of people around the world, and especially in Europe and Ukraine, are not understanding this. They are still believing that everything is great, and they are seeing that the battlefield front line is far away from Kyiv, and they are thinking, if the Russian army was able to go for 100 kilometers per 3 years, then for the next 3 years, if Ukraine even lose another 100 kilometers, it will not be a crisis for Ukraine. They are thinking.
They don't sense that existential threat,
and they are thinking in a very primitive way. But the existential war, the war, long-term war, when the level of existential of the sides is very high, they are very dangerous in terms that in one moment everything may be broken in one moment. And 1 month ago, the enemy's forces were 1,000 kilometers from your capital, and in 1 week they are in your capital already.
You're referring to Syria?
I'm referring not only to Syria, I'm referring also to Second World War, to the First World War. Germany lost First World War in situation when no one enemy soldiers was on German territory at all. They just reached such level of exhaustion which didn't let them to continue the war. And there is such a risk for Ukraine. Of course, there is a risk for Russia, but Russia is still fighting by using limited resources without full involvement of Russian society to this war. We need to find this new balance. We need to find the exit strategy for Ukraine from this war if we are willing to save the Ukraine for the future.
Ruslan, what do we know about the public opinion in Ukraine? How ready they are, or how much they understand the situation around the existential threat of potentially losing the sovereignty in the country the way they know it? How much readiness they have and understanding of the situation to take on the compromises that needs to be taken to achieve a freezing situation or a fully solved conflict. What are the numbers of people that understand it, and what are the numbers of the people that are extremely anti-compromises?
Majority of Ukrainian society is ready to end the war, is ready to accept any ceasefire or truce in this war. But at the same time, only 1/3 of Ukrainians are ready to make some concessions toward Russia, to find some compromises. And the majority of Ukrainian society is stating that we are not ready to make any compromises with Russia. We just want to freeze this conflict, and we are just want to stop this war, but without any agreements and compromises. It's very it's behaving, and it's this statement. It's like a very child statement, very child position.
I want a car, but I don't want to work to make the money for that car.
Yeah, something like this. Moreover, but we need to understand that Ukrainian society is under a huge pressure of mass media, and stating some of thoughts in Ukrainian society is against of the law.
That's right, but because the media, the mainstream media, is still under full control of the government. They've never freed the channel.
And you may be not only humiliated, but you may be also even captured, imprisoned, or beaten. Somebody on the streets. Society is very divided. Society is very disbalanced at the same time, and society is very angry for and everybody may be a target for this angriness in any moment because of losing the confidence about the future and because of the bad results in the war. So it's very hard situation. And my suggestion to the government to make some kind of referendums of elections. If we are willing to find the stable solution for the war and for the peace, we need to achieve the support, the mandate from the majority of society. Otherwise, these radical groups and disappointed by a part of societies may be very destructive toward the government and towards the social stability in Ukraine.
Speaking of the election, do you think we can see the election happening this year?
It also depending on the negotiation process. Now, Ukrainian government is not going on to make these elections. It's very true, but at the same time, they are not able to control entirely the political situation in Ukraine, and political agreement or a military crisis may bring us to the situation when we extremely need the elections, and to the situation when the only election may be a way out of the crisis.
Ruslan, it was a pleasure having this conversation with you. Thank you so much again for all your comments and analysis. And friends, please subscribe if you like our work and you like that analysis. Let us know in the comments. We can see that you're liking that video and we understand that this information is important for you. Ruslan, thank you again.
Thank you very much, James, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.